Today's gospel is a jam-packed gospel full of many adages, many idioms that we have heard forever. In fact, it even has a tongue twister in the end. For the measure with which you measure will in return be measured out to you. Say that twice fast, not alone 5 times fast. But at the heart of today's gospel, Christ is telling us to be different. Don't follow the mainstream. Love your enemies. Love those who hate you. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't return their spite. Don't return their anger. Don't return their haughty words. But return to them what is not due to us. Think about that. How many times in life do we think that the world owes me everything just because I exist? We forget, though, that we have a debt to the world. We have a debt to God, that God gives us so much more than we can ever earn, so much more than we will ever deserve. He's merciful. He's forgiving. He's kind. He's slow to anger. Do we deserve that good of a God? I don't think so. Whether I think so or not, though, we have him. And that's the beauty of God, is that he is so merciful, so loving, that he allows us to sin. But even in our sinfulness, he gives us not only the perfect way out by sending his Son to die for our sins, but a continual way out through the sacraments of healing, the sacrament of the Eucharist, the sacrament of reconciliation. I've been reflecting a lot this last week because this is my 1-year anniversary being here. I can't believe I've already been here for a year, but at the same time, it's like, I've only been here for a year? Are you kidding me? And how easy is it for us to just remember the bad times? Oh man, I cannot believe when this person yelled at me, or when this person called me so-and-so, or when this person got mad at me for X, Y, or Z. Because I'm not perfect, I'll admit it. But I focused more this last week for myself on how blessed I've been to be sent to Western Oklahoma. I never thought I'd be blessed to come to Western Oklahoma. I can remember not last fall, but the fall of 2020, I was doing the Radiothon pledge drive with the Archbishop, and we were talking about how we were trying to extend the reach of Catholic radio and how we were applying for a new station to go in Woodward. And I said, yes, Woodward, the armpit of Oklahoma. He looks at me and says, you said what? I wouldn't call them the armpit of Oklahoma. Got off the radio and he said, yes, Danny, it's all fun and games until I send you to Western Oklahoma. Within 3 months, I kid you not, I got sent here. And it has been better than I could have ever anticipated. So first, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all of your prayers. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for showing up. It amazed me my first Mass here when we had that Ash Wednesday, once-in-a-lifetime frozen day. I felt like I was back in North Dakota again. It's like I haven't felt like this since the early 90s. We got here and we had a pipe break outside, a pipe break in the office, wind chills in the negative 20s and 30s. I closed the office my first day on the job. Pipe bursts, the whole office, plus their husbands, plus their wives, plus their children showed up in service. Remember, we weren't going to have a Mass that evening because of the ice storm. I had canceled going to Sayre because I was afraid. I'd never been there before. I didn't know how to get there. and because I don't like to drive at night, I was worried of getting out there. So we had that Mass that we live streamed at noon for Corpus Christi, St. Robert Bellarmine, Bishop McGinnis, Queen of All Saints, and St. Matthew's. But then we had a Mass that evening, and I thought, we'll have maybe 5 or 10 people that feel like they have to come to Mass. Like 150 people showed up that night. It's Ash Wednesday, don't you know, Father? And I saw in that moment the hearts of Western Oklahoma, the hearts of this blessing that God would give to me. So thank you that I have been given so much more than I will ever deserve. And I think it's been that way my whole life, for most of us, I think. We always feel like when we give something, we're losing something, don't we? Well, God has given me so much, so I give a little bit back, and then I always find, without a doubt, every time I give something, God replaces it time and time and time again. And it's one of those like, okay, Lord, are you just showing off now? No, he's allowing his words of the gospel to really be true. That for the measure with which we measure will in return be measured out to you. We cannot be more generous than the Lord. And rarely do we try. And so this weekend, as you probably know, it's the ACA weekend, the Archdiocesan Catholic Appeal. It used to be known as the ADF, the Archdiocesan Development Fund. And so at the end of your pews, we have these. Don't pick them up yet. We'll have a moment for that in a second. But I want to talk to you about why this is important, not just to the diocese, but to our parish and to me personally. If it weren't for the ADF, I would not be standing in front of you today as your pastor. One of the largest line items for the year, or for the Catholic diocese every year, is seminary and education. Every seminarian for education, on average per year, is $50,000. We have 21 seminarians. Quick math, $1,050,000 to train, to teach, to grow our next generation of priests. We're having a priestly ordination this year, hopefully. Robert Miller, who we ordained as a deacon in April and as a priest in August, he stayed with it longer than most would. In fact, when I joined seminary, he was a year ahead of me. And we all have our wayward ways through life, and he said, no, I've got a vocation. But I know that financially he wouldn't be able to do it on his own. Because as a priest, if I tried to pay back my education, before taxes, it would take me 40 years to pay back if there was no interest on the loans and I didn't spend a penny on anything. 40 years. And so we as a church, we as a diocese, come together to support the church. And I have to admit, when I came to St. Matthew's, I heard the same thing here when I got here that I heard at Corpus Christi. The diocese doesn't care about us. We're in western Oklahoma. We're so far out there, they don't listen to us. This was about a month and a half after the Archbishop came out and celebrated the 50th anniversary Mass for our parish. And 3 weeks after he had come and celebrated the memorial Mass for Father Philip. And then I looked through this last year, and I can understand why we have that sentiment many times, except that I know in my heart, in my life, the diocese does care about us. When I look back at our finances this year, when I look back at the programming that we had this year, they saved us over $30,000 that we didn't have to raise funds for this year. Between the women's retreat that we had back in June last year, the men's retreat we had back in June last year, the different programs that we have for our youth every summer, through Totus Tuus, through our church camp, we get grants for those from the diocese. They gave us $10,000 last year to pay for those programs. But also, when we had our awesome retreat back in December for our confirmandi, that retreat should have cost us between $10,000 and $15,000. Cost us $700. And we ate every single one of those donuts and every piece of pizza. Because I tried to get some afterwards. I said at the end, if you don't eat it, Father's going to eat it and get fat. They took me up on that challenge and ate it all, including all the cookies that were donated by the food bank. Thanks. But that as a community of faith, the reason I bring this up when I talk about the ACA, the reason I'm so impassionate about it, is because I believe in what it stands for. Do I think everything that the diocese is doing financially is perfect? No. Do I think everything we're doing as a parish is perfect financially? No. We got to work on it. We got to still continue to grow and continue to do things, and that's why we have the parish council. We're meeting on Wednesday, don't forget. And finance council, we're meeting soon, to make sure that what is given by the generosity of the faithful is put into good works for the faithful. The measure with which you measure will be measured out to you in return. So how is the Lord calling us? What programs do we want to see grow diocesan-wise? This next Saturday, in fact, many of the women of our very own parish will be going to Norman for the women's retreat, for the women's conference. The following Saturday, the men's conference. That those are programs put on by the diocese. Yes, there are small registration fees that go into it, but a lot of the organization comes from the funds of the ACA. There are so many things that this goes to that we don't even hear about. As I said, for me personally, I appreciate the youth programs that we have. Being able to go to NCYC, being able to go to Totus Tuus and have them come here, being able to have our Catholic summer camp, both for the parish and for the Diocese of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and for my education. 8 years of seminary. If it weren't for you and those that came before you, I would not be standing here. I come from a poor family, both military, both teachers for the diocese, which means they didn't get paid a lot, both taught in Catholic education. But it was because of the generosity of the people of our 107 parishes and missions in this diocese that by the grace of God, I got ordained 6.5 years ago. By the grace of God, I will hopefully make it to retirement in 38.5 years. Not that anybody's counting. And well beyond that. And so at this time, I would ask that look at these at the end of your pews. I filled mine out earlier. They've got these new things called cell phones, and they sent me an email this week, and they've actually got a link on there. You can go in and fill it out on there. Filled it out in 5 minutes. We've got in the entranceway of the church a QR code. Take your phone, push it up to it, links you right to the St. Matthew's ACA donation. Our goal this year at St. Matthew's is $40,000. Our parish is one of the only parishes this year where our goal went down. Because last year we only got to about 50% of our goal. Last year our goal was $47,000, we hit about $23,000. My hope is that we can show the diocese that whether they care about us or we feel they care about us, we care about them. I have to admit the words from JFK popped in my head. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Ask not what your diocese can do for you, but what you can do for the diocese. There are some parishes that are not as welcoming as St. Matthew's and Queen of All Saints. I've been there. Either as a seminarian, as a visitor, and I want to continue to allow our parish to grow. I want to continue to allow our diocese to grow and bear these fruits. So I'm going to go sit down. I'll be quiet. Give us some time to look at these, prayerfully consider. And if you can't think about what you want to do tonight, pray about it. Bring them back next week. We have a basket at the back. After Mass, just place these in the basket. If you don't want to fill one of these out and you'd rather just take some cash out of your wallet, money's good. So I'll be quiet. Thank you.